10 Worst Voices from X Factor Auditions. Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Screeny. The X Factor judges usually come across two types of people: those who have talent, and those who don't, but think that they do. Dealing with the second group isn't music to anyone's ears, but it's part of the job, and often leads to a hilarious outcome. Let's take a look at the 10 Worst Voices from X Factor Auditions. Remember to press the subscribe button before we remind you of some of the most dreadful singers Simon and the gang have ever met. Number 10. Jocelyn Marquez. When it comes to bad singers on the X Factor, Jocelyn Marquez, who made an appearance on the US version of the show, is in a league of her own. She decided to audition for this show because it meant that she'll get a chance to come face to face with one of her idols, legendary Mexican singer Paulina Rubio. Marquez hopes that she has what it takes to become as successful as her all-time favorite artist, but her dream quickly fell apart in front of the whole world. She started her audition on the wrong foot by asking Simon Cowell for his name, but it wasn't even her biggest misstep. As the music started playing in the background, Jocelyn took out her phone and started reading the lyrics off the screen. It was the most disastrous karaoke rendition of Rihanna's Only Girl the World had ever seen. The judges weren't holding any punches when it was time to vote, and even her idol Paulina felt it's time for Marquez to pack her stuff and go home, because she simply didn't have what it takes to be a star. Number 9. Ant and Seb. Some of the X Factor auditions are so bad it's good, especially if the singers don't take themselves too seriously. The music duo Ant and Seb are a case in point, and their version of Peter Andre's classic Mysterious Girl went down in history as one of the most hilarious auditions the judges have ever witnessed. To be fair, Ant's singing wasn't a total train wreck, but his hype man Seb managed to ruin the whole thing with his atrocious Bubbler Ranks impersonation. Cheryl Cole was holding back tears as she watched this disastrous act, but her laughter was contagious. Every time Seb jumped in to deliver his lines, the panel couldn't help but burst into laughter, as the whole thing eventually turned into a huge giggling fit. The judges somehow managed to stop chuckling, and Simon Cowell told the duo that they should change their name to Ant and Death before showing them the door. Number 8. Aaron Martin Jeremy. Despite the fact this show helped several young artists find fame and fortune, many people still see the X Factor as a joke, and some of the contestants treated it as one. Aaron Martin Jeremy was one of them, and from the first moment he walked into the audition room, it was clear he's just a novelty act who's there for the laughs. His audition was off to a rocky start, since Aaron spent half of the song summoning the courage to let his voice out. Once he finally started singing, everyone in the studio probably wished he stayed silent until the very end. His rendition of Michael Jackson's classic Heal the World was hard to listen to, but Aaron's awkward dance moves served as the comic relief the audience needed at that point in time. After everyone had their laugh, Simon asked the contestant to stop and told him how much he appreciates his effort, but still felt it's better if he goes home. Despite the fact his voice was disastrous, Aaron won everyone over with his offbeat attitude, so sitting through his performance didn't feel like a complete waste of time. Number 7. Unkar Judge. The worst thing about bad singers who audition for the X Factor isn't even their voice. It's their huge ego and complete lack of self-awareness. The audience comes to expect big things from them once they start comparing themselves to big musical icons, and that's what Unkar Judge did when he showed up to audition for this show. This contestant claimed he was as good as Michael Jackson, but his version of Earth Song proved otherwise. The King of Pop used this emotional anthem to expose the destruction of the universe, but Judge's rendition of this hit single didn't really reflect his message. Judge butchered the song and dramatically fell to his knees once he was done. The only thing that hurt more than watching him do it was listening to his voice. Simon could say nothing but, "What the hell was that?" before describing it as one of the worst performances he's ever heard. The rest of the judges were on the same page and voted him out in a matter of seconds. Number 6. Melanie Right. There are some X Factor contestants we all want to root for, but simply can't because they couldn't sing in tune if their life depended on it. The 49-year-old paralegal Melanie Right is one of those people. she decided to audition for this show since she's been fantasizing about being a star since childhood. But it was just a pipe dream. Her X Factor performance showed the world Right doesn't have what it takes to be a successful artist, but her persistence was pretty inspiring. Her rendition of Sia's hit song Titanium seemed more like a parody than an actual performance on a talent show, but the judges went along with it because they could tell how much it meant to her. They were speechless for a few seconds since no one wanted to hurt Melanie's feelings, but it was inevitable, and they eventually shattered her dream by giving her 4 no's. Number 5. Gillian Rose Ang. My Heart Will Go On is a go-to song for many contestants who want to showcase their talent on music competition shows. Unfortunately, it's not such a good idea to go with it if your voice isn't pitch perfect, and Gillian Rose Ang is one of the people who made this mistake. Things probably wouldn't have turned out any better for this contestant if she went with a different song, because she sounded like a broken record. Once she was done, the judges tried to contain themselves for a split second, but immediately burst into laughter. Mr. Nasty was so startled by the whole thing that his fellow judges needed to remind him which song she was trying to deliver. He told Gillian her voice was like nothing he's ever heard before, but not in a good way. The rest of the panel also felt that her performance went down like the Titanic and unanimously voted no. Number 4. Suzanne Gay. The X Factor reached a new level of bad once Suzanne Gay walked into the audition room, as the judges were never the same again after listening to her voice. The lack of musical talent wasn't the only thing that bothered them about Gay's performance. This contestant was so out of place that she couldn't even remember the song that she was supposed to sing, and had to start over several times before finally getting a grip. The judges showed incredible patience with Suzanne and did their best to get her on the right track, but it wasn't enough. Even after she finally remembered the lyrics to Whitney Houston's hit single I Have Nothing, her version of the song wasn't worth hearing. Her voice was too pitchy and out of tune, but Gay tried to defend herself by saying things turned out that way because she started off wrong. Simon wasn't fooled by her argument, and neither were the rest of the judges, who immediately sent her home. Number 3. Sophies Stalker. After a night of excruciatingly bad auditions, the judges were hoping they'll get their money's worth after Sophies Stalker took the stage in her pop star style getup. Unfortunately, she proved to not only be the biggest disappointment of the night, but also one of the worst singers they ever came across. This teen from Newcastle tried to convince the judges she's the next big thing with her rendition of Jennifer Hudson's Love You I Do, but things backfired horrendously as soon as she let her voice out. Everyone's jaw dropped to the floor when this 16-year-old started to sing, but not because her voice was the most amazing thing they've ever heard. Members of Sophie's family were the only people in the studio who seemed to be enjoying her act, while everyone else was waiting for the torture to stop. It eventually did, and the girl received a resounding 4 no's from the judges. Nicole Scherzinger seemed to be the most distressed by her performance, and she said she had the looks to be a star, but unfortunately missed the pitch and the tone. Number 2. Dylan Lawson. Dylan Lawson's backstory made it seem like he's a small country boy destined for greatness. This Kentucky teen talked about selling his truck so he could afford to come to Dallas and make his X Factor dream come true. Despite the emotional buildup, the mood in the room changed once Dylan started singing, because it turned out he was missing one crucial ingredient you need to become a star: actual talent. The teen told the judges he'll perform Swag Surfin' by Lil Wayne, but what he did next can hardly be described as a performance. It was an exorcism waiting to happen, and the audience watched in awe as he went screaming his way through the song while looking like evil spirits are about to overtake his body any minute. He ended the audition by lying face down on the floor after throwing around a bunch of F-bombs that no one saw coming. The judges couldn't even be bothered to vote, and Cowell simply told him to leave the stage. Number 1. Gio Godley. Some of the acts on the X Factor are so batshit crazy, it's easy to forget how bad the singing actually was. Gio Godley's audition is one of the most notable examples, since everyone was focusing on something else entirely during his act. This contestant went down in history as one of the most controversial the judges have ever come across, since he stripped midway through. A large X was covering his privates during the broadcast, making people believe he was completely naked, but Godley later explained he was wearing a G-string the whole time. This little gimmick couldn't distract from the fact this contestant was out of tune the whole time. Despite the fact he was performing an original song, the judges could tell no one wanted to listen to him voluntarily even before he pulled his pants down. Everyone voted no once the torture was finally over, apart from Paula Abdul, who stormed off backstage because she couldn't stand watching the whole thing. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing content, and don't forget to check out one of the other 2 videos on your screen.